Hello, and welcome again to the Puttatorium. Let's see if I can keep my finger on the lens. Uh, Today, what are we puttering with? We are going to test some tubes. I ordered some tubes from eBay, some 6BJ6 tubes that I need for a radio that I'm working on. And it was cheaper per unit to order a lot of them than a lot, not many, but so I have a lot of 7 tubes, and they seem to be in there. I've only taken 2 of them out of the box, and they were in the branded box. So I don't know if they're new old stock. I don't remember if that's what the ad said or not, but anyway, we're going to test them and see how they shape up. So sorry about shadows in here. I'm inside in the workshop, and it is a mess. I'll give you a pan real quick. That's some stuff waiting to be worked on, and all the white boxes are tubes, and of course tools, bench, more storage, little rack, and yeah. And sorry about the spin real quick, but that's an old console I need to work on that was given to me. And it looks to be like it's going to be an interesting job. Anyway, the one I'm working on is on the bench right now. And it takes one of these 6BJ6 tubes. So let's get started on testing tubes, shall we? So first thing we're going to do is turn the tube tester on. And then we're going to make sure we're going to, this is, by the way, this is an B&K Model 707 Dyna-Jet tube tester. It has a pretty good selection of tubes that it can test. These units, these little pieces here are socket savers. Sometimes common tubes, the sockets will get worn out in the tube testers. So rather than replacing it, and which is some extensive surgery, and it won't look right, I've got these adapters which to go pin for pin and stick in there, and that way I'm not constantly plugging tubes in and out of that same worn out socket. So anyway, it's a good tester. I've refurbished it, changed all the resistors out and capacitors, and I'm trying to remember. I believe it has a tube in it that was replaced as well. So so what we're going to do here is we're going to look up 6BJ6 BHJ right there. And what it says is that's a 6, 1, and an 81. So that's going to be 6 volts, socket number 1, and 81 in the sensitivity dial. Okay, so what we're going to do is come over here. And the last tube I was testing was a 35 volt tube. So we're going to turn this all the way down to 6 volts. And then we're going to turn that to, what was it, 81? I'm trying to make sure here, 81. So 80, see if I can show you that without a shadow there. That's 90, 81. Always set your dials before you put the tube in. If I had put a tube in the socket and it was set for 35 volts, I would have blown the tube. And as some of you may know, tubes are not being made anymore. And everybody that is working with tubes, except for some highly specialized and very, very expensive high-end audio tubes, nobody's making them. And we're all working off a new old stock, or just old stock, stuff that's been pulled out of old equipment, so used items. So be careful with them. Another thing to remember is, I don't know if you can see this number on here. Let's see if we can get it to focus. And probably not. It's not going to focus. Very difficult to read the numbers on here. I keep a magnifying glass. Can't read it, but I did check it to make sure I had the correct number tube. That's something you have to know. Not very many people can tell what tube is by looking at it. And when you're handling a tube, I usually try to handle it either very low and on the top. And if I know where the number is, to be able to stay away from it, because sometimes your fingerprints will just wipe the number right off. Don't use Windex on a tube. Usually it'll take the paint right off and you never know what the number is. For some that are real dusty, what I've done in the past is just use a paper towel wetted with water and just dab it real carefully and go around the number once I find it. Be very, very careful not to erase it. So what did we say? We said socket 1 was in the chart. I believe 6BJ6 socket 1. That is correct. So we're going to go over here and insert that. And you'll see that there's a gap here. And there's a gap in the pins as well. So we're going to put that in there. And oh, the other thing about this tube tester, it has two sides to it. This button here puts it to side 1, which is this panel. And then if I push the switch down, it'll actually put it down here on the bottom panel, which is an expansion panel, to test some other tubes. And it's got numbers in the charts for those as well. And that is used quite often as well. All right, so what I usually try to do is I'll look at the tube to try and see if there's any light in there, if I can see anything. And I don't with this one. Sometimes you can see it glowing, sometimes you can't. But anyway, let's test it out. First thing we're going to do is test for shorts, which is this button here that says shorts. And if it pegs over to the to the side, it's bad. Let's see what happens. And it barely moved a little bit, so that's good. That's good. Let's see where the test takes us. So it's been in there for a couple seconds. Usually you want to allow at least 30 seconds to a minute sometimes, depending on the tubes, for it to warm up before you hit the test button. That way you'd know that it's come up to temperature. So here we go. Test number 1, and nothing. We have nothing. So why? Why do we have nothing? Is it because of this socket? Let's see. And we have nothing. So that one might be blown. Let's, oh, and I gotta take this out. It doesn't want to come out. All right, let me get 2 hands here. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I didn't even take it out yet. Wiggling it around, I hit the test button again, and look what we got. It's measuring up about 65%. With this tester, it doesn't give you an exact number of the conductance, but it's measuring tired, but usable. As long as it's up above that, not in that red, I found that they usually are usable. Not where I'd like them, but they are usable. So we're going to call that one good, or usable. And we'll mark it on the outside of the box, 65. And let me get the next one, and we'll be back. Okay, so I'm back. And what I do is I'm going to try and keep these in the original boxes. Sometimes that's not easy because the boxes fall apart. If you remember, we scored this one at 65. And that's what I wrote on there. That's what I do with my tin. That's when I store my tubes. And if I pull one out, I know that's what it tested at. That's my marking system. Some tube testers will give you a number. It measures micromos. what a mho is the opposite of an ohm, which measures the conductivity of the tube. This one does not do that. It's a simpler model. And the Dyna-Jet is so you can test tubes quickly. And that was the design of this tube tester. So there are some heavy-duty, heavy-hitter tube testers, like a Hickok. Some of those are really nice, and they will give you some very precise readings. This one does not do that. It gives me a good or bad indication, and that's basically it. And it'll tell me if it has shorts. So, but anyway, that's how I mark mine. I've got the second tube in there. And as I said, some of these sockets are worn out, and that's what happened with the first one. So let's, I've got that one back in my bin here. And let's see if this one measures. So let's okay, a little bit there, and test one. Oh, that one's much better. As you see, that one's measuring about 78, 79. I'm gonna call that 79, and that's what we're gonna write on that box. So that's a good tube. So let's take that one out and put it back in the box. Okay, we're back. I'm not going to go through all 7 of those tubes. I will check them, but looks like we're off to a good start. But I do want to show you what one looks like when it's bad. So what I have is a 35C5, which is, see if I can zoom in on that, 35 volts, socket 4, and sensitivity of 54. So let's test that and see what it looks like. And this one, you can actually see a glow on it. This tube is usually an output tube. As an audio amplifier on a radio, it'd be the output, the last tube in the circuit right before it goes to the speaker. So, and this one, as I recall, measured bad because it's in the trash can. Let's see what happened. That is a short. So that's why I press that short button first. And that is a dead short. So what we have here is that some of the elements inside the tube have shorted together. So that tube is completely unusable, and it's going back in the trash. Right down there. All right, I have another one here, which is a 50C5. Probably can't see that, but it's the same tube, only it's a 50 volt tube instead of a 35 volt. And when I say that, that means the American tubes are numbered. The first set of numbers are usually the heater voltage or the filament voltage. Same thing. What the filament does is it runs up the center and it heats the cathode. The cathode, when it's heated, gives off electrons. And then you put a high voltage on the plate, which will attract the electrons from the cathode. That is called thermionic emission. But anyway, that's probably more than you wanted to know. But they have elements in between the two to aid in how much it conducts and control how much it conducts. And by putting a small input signal in one of those control elements, you get a high variance on the output, which is called amplification. So pretty ingenious that they come up with this in the 20s. So pretty cool. Anyway, we're going to put this one in here. That is a 50 volts. I've already got it set for 50 volt. Can't see it because of the shadow, but it's there. And the sensitivity is going to be the same, I believe. I hope so. Let's double check that before I hit the button. That is 50C5. And it is not the same. That's why we check it. Sensitivity is 44. So we're going to turn that down because that would give us an erroneous reading. So 44 right there. All right, let's test this one for shorts. And here we go. And it doesn't look like we have shorts. So let's try the test. And that is test 1. I'm trying to look at this through the camera. And we have nothing. So let's wiggle that tube a little bit. Make sure we're making good contact. And we still have absolutely nothing. So this one is dead as well. 2 different kinds of failure on the tubes. I have another one in here, a rectifier tube that I blew the filament on. That was my fault because I was trying to take a voltage reading off the cathode and I shorted it to AC input, which was a shame because it was a brand new tube still in the box. Well, new old stock, excuse me. Probably a 70, 80-year-old tube that had never been used, and I blew it up. So, and now it's dead. So, kind of a shame, but that happens, and I'm kicking myself for it. So, anyway, that's. I think we're done testing tubes for the day. Appreciate you watching, and join me again in the Auditorium. Thanks again. Bye. So, one more time, I finished up testing, and all of them tested usable at a minimum. The lowest ones were 55 and 56. I had 2 of them, which, as you can see, that's right on the edge of that bottom edge of that yellow on the scale. But I'm going to keep them. They'd be good for testing anyway. I don't sell my radios, so but if I were to, I wouldn't send one out with that, but or give it away for that matter. But anyway, I mentioned before that I've got quite a collection built up of tubes, and and let's see that. Yeah, that's I've picked up a few here and there, but yeah, all in all, we should be okay, and hopefully when I pass away, somebody will want them and make good use out of them. I'm pretty sure my son doesn't want them. Y'all take care. Thanks again.